Saturday night in Washington. Alexandra Eala beats the second seed, the 10th ranked player in the world, and walks off that court inside the top 25 for the first time in her life. I want to be very clear about what that number actually means because it is not just a nice story. No tennis player from the Philippines has ever been ranked here. Not a woman, not a man, not once in the entire history of the sport. And I do not mean nobody has managed it recently. I mean nobody has come close. There is no second place on that list to compare her to. She is not breaking a record. She is creating one out of nothing. Now rewind 17 months. March of 2025. Same time of year. Same player. Alexandra Eala was ranked 140th in the world, not 140th in Asia, not 140th among juniors. On the planet. That is the part of the tour where you are flying economy to tournaments most people have never heard of, playing in front of maybe 200 spectators, and hoping the prize money covers the hotel. That is where she was 17 months ago. 115 spots. 17 months. 21 years old. That is the headline, and it is the version you will see everywhere this week. Clean. Inspiring. Easy to post. But that number hides something, and I think it hides the most important part, because a climb like this is never a straight line, and hers definitely was not. There is a stretch right in the middle of these 17 months where the tennis world had already made up its mind about Alexandra Eala. Not the casual fans. The people who actually follow this sport closely. They looked at her results, looked at her ranking, and they landed on the two words that end more young careers than any injury ever has. One tournament wonder. And here is the uncomfortable part. They were not being cruel. They had a genuinely good reason to think it. The numbers were on their side. If you had shown me her ranking in the spring of 2026 with no other context, I might have said the same thing. So what happened? What exactly went wrong? And then what did she do about it? Because between 140 and 25, there is a collapse that almost nobody talks about. An afternoon in London that made the entire tennis world take back what it said, and one quiet decision she made 8 days ago that I do not think a single channel has connected to what she just did in Washington. Let me start at the beginning with a kid getting on a plane. What the top 25 costs to understand what the top 25 costs, you have to understand what she gave up to get anywhere near it. Alexandra Eala left Manila as a child. She moved to Mallorca, to the Rafa Nadal Academy, roughly 7,000 miles from home. Think about the actual mechanics of that for a second. A kid packing a bag for a country she does not live in a language she does not speak, to train in a sport her home country barely follows, because that is the part people skip. The Philippines is not a tennis country. The Philippines is basketball. It is boxing. It is a place where more than 100 million people can name the entire starting five of an NBA team and could not name 3 players on the WTA Tour. There was no development system waiting for her. No academy back home to fall back on. No former Filipino top 50 players she could call and ask what happens next, because there has never been one. Every athlete says they had to work hard. Fine. But there is a specific kind of loneliness in being the first person from your entire country to attempt something, and there is no map for that. You are not following a path. You are guessing in public at 13 years old. The junior results came. She won junior Grand Slam doubles titles. Then in 2022, she won the junior US Open singles title. And back in Manila, it felt enormous, because it was... And here is where I have to be honest with you, because this is the part that makes what came later so much bigger. Junior titles mean almost nothing. That is not me being harsh. That is the sport. Tennis history is a graveyard of junior champions, kids who dominated at 16, turned pro, and were selling real estate by 24. The gap between beating other teenagers and beating grown professionals who have been doing this for a decade is enormous. And most players never cross it. For every junior champion who becomes a household name, there are 20 you have never heard of. And it is not because they stopped trying. So in early 2025, Eala was 140th in the world, a talented former junior grinding, going the same direction as everyone else who never made it. Then Miami. March 2025. The Miami Open. A WTA 1000 event, the tier just below a Grand Slam. She entered as a wild card into qualifying. That is the bottom of the entry list. You are there because someone gave you a favor, and the expectation is that you lose in 2 rounds and go home. She did not go home. She kept winning match after match, deeper into a draw she had no business being in. Past players ranked far above her until she was standing in the semifinals of a WTA 1000 event as a wild card ranked 140th in the world. I need you to understand what that did back home. People stayed up all night. Not tennis fans, everyone. Bars in Manila that had never shown a tennis match in their lives put it on the big screen. Group chats that normally argue about basketball turned into tennis group chats overnight. For the first time, a country of over 100 million people looked at a tennis court and saw somebody who came from where they came from, and it stopped being a foreign sport played by other people somewhere far away. That is not a sports result. That is a country changing its mind about something. And if you were one of the people watching her back then, before ESPN cared, before the highlight compilations, before her name was showing up in American sports coverage every week, then you already know why this story hits differently now. So Miami 2025 was the night the Philippines fell in love with tennis. It was also, and nobody had any idea at the time, the exact thing that was about to nearly destroy her career 12 months later. The brutal math of ranking points here is the part of professional tennis that nobody explains on television. You do not own your ranking points. You rent them. Every point you earn is yours for exactly 52 weeks. 1 year to the day after you win it, the system takes it back. It does not care how you are playing. It does not care if you are injured. On that specific week, the points vanish. And the only way to keep them is to go back to that same tournament and produce the same result all over again. That Miami semifinal in 2025 was worth 390 points, which means that in March of 2026, Alexandra Eala had to reach the semifinals of the Miami Open again just to stay exactly where she was. Not to improve. To stand still. Now, let me set the scene for how good things looked right before that clock ran out. Early 2026 was working. She reached the quarterfinals in Abu Dhabi. She made noise in Dubai. Then Indian Wells, another WTA 1000, and she reached the round of 16. That result pushed her ranking to number 29 in the world, a new career high. On the 16th of March, 2026, she was inside the top 30 for the first time in her life. And the story was clean. Kid from Manila rising. No drama. And then the Miami clock hit 0. She went back to Miami. She played well. She reached the round of 16. Stop and think about that for a second. A 20-year-old reaching the 4th round of a WTA 1000 event is a good tournament. Most players on tour would take that result every single week of their careers. For Eala, it was a mathematical disaster because 390 points went out the door and the round of 16 did not come close to replacing them. Her ranking fell from 29 to 45. 16 spots in 1 week after winning matches. Sit with how strange that is. She was a better player in March 2026 than she was in March 2025. Faster, stronger, more experienced, beating better opponents more regularly, and the system punished her for it because the version of her from a year earlier had set a bar that had nothing to do with development and everything to do with a draw that opened up at the right moment. So, what is a player supposed to do with that? How do you walk into practice on Monday morning when playing better than last year got you dropped 16 places? That is layer 1. Here is layer 2, and it is worse. The narrative arrived immediately. You have heard it before. It is the label that has ended more young careers than any injury. One tournament wonder. Flash in the pan. The Miami run was the outlier and 45th in the world, is who she actually is. That is what the numbers say, right? 2 Miamis, 1 great, 1 ordinary. Regression to the mean. Nice run, kid. And the brutal thing about that label is that it is unfalsifiable in the moment. You cannot argue your way out of it. You cannot post about it. The only way to kill it is to produce a result so undeniable that it cannot be explained away. And if you could produce results like that on demand, you would not be having this problem in the first place. Now, layer 3, and this is the one I think Americans genuinely underestimate. When an American player has a bad month, she disappears. She is one of dozens of good American players. The coverage moves on to somebody else. She goes back to work in private and nobody outside her camp notices. Eala does not have that. Every match she plays is front-page news in Manila. Not sports section front page. When she wins, an entire country celebrates. When she loses, an entire country asks what went wrong out loud in every newspaper, on every network, in every group chat. There is no anonymity in a bad stretch when you are the only person your country has. So imagine being 20 years old, ranked 45th in the world, having just watched a third of your ranking points evaporate in 7 days, reading your own name attached to the word overrated, in a country where 100 million people are watching you figure it out in real time. And underneath all of it, the question that will not go away, the one she could not answer with words, was Miami real, or was Miami a good week? Because if Miami was a good week, then this is the whole career. A nice highlight reel, a Wikipedia page, and a decade of first-round exits. That is not a tragedy. That is just what happens to most players who touch the top 30 once and slide back. 45th in the world. A third of her points gone in a single week. A label she could not argue with. And a country waiting for an answer. And the only way to answer a question that big is to do something the sport cannot explain away. 3 months later, on a grass court in London, she did. The rebuild before London, there was Birmingham, June 2026. Grass season. Eala enters the tournament in Birmingham and wins it, the biggest title of her career to that point. It is not a WTA 1000. It is not a Grand Slam. And plenty of people scrolled past it. But if you had been watching closely, something had changed in how she was moving on court. Then Berlin. A WTA 500 with a stacked field. In the quarterfinals, she draws Alina Svitolina, a former world number 3, and beats her 6-3, 6-4. Eala goes on to the semifinals, brick by brick. She was rebuilding what Miami took, but none of that killed a label. A grass court title outside the top tier and a semifinal in Germany do not erase 45th in the world. The tennis world had filed her, and files do not reopen for good weeks. Then Wimbledon. Third round. The All England Club, the most watched tennis tournament on earth. On the other side of the net is Iga Swiatek. I want you to really see this picture before we go any further. Swiatek is the defending champion. She had lifted the trophy on that grass 12 months earlier. Multiple Grand Slam titles. Former world number 1. One of the most decorated players of her generation. Standing on the exact surface where she was the reigning queen. And walking out to face her is a 21-year-old from a country that has never produced a professional tennis player of any consequence. Ranked outside the top 30. Coming off the worst stretch of her career. Carrying a label she had not been able to shake for 3 months. Everything about that picture says one thing. The commentators knew what this was supposed to be. Everybody in that stadium knew. A nice moment for the underdog. A competitive first set, if she plays well. And a routine win for the champion. She walked out there anyway. Eala won. She beat the defending Wimbledon champion on center court in front of the whole sport. And then she did not stop. She went on to the 4th round, becoming the first Filipina in the Open era to reach the second week of a Grand Slam. Nobody from her country had ever done that. Not in singles. Not ever. She eventually lost there to Jasmine Paolini, the 13th seed. And even that loss came with a sentence attached that had never existed before. First ever. Now here is why this was the turning point, and not just a beautiful upset. Think back to Miami. That run was extraordinary, but there was a way to dismiss it. She was ranked 140th. Nobody had scouted her. Nobody had film on her. Players walked onto the court against an unknown wild card and got surprised. And by the time they figured out what she did, they had already lost. That is a real phenomenon in tennis. And it is why so many breakout runs never repeat. None of that applies to Swiatek. Swiatek knew exactly who Alexandra Eala was. Her team had watched the film. They had the scouting report. There was no element of surprise left. No anonymity to hide behind. Eala walked onto that court fully known, fully prepared for, against a champion who had every advantage available in professional tennis. And she still won. That is the difference between a good week and a good player. One of them survives being studied. the other does not. The result was worth 240 ranking points. It pushed her to number 28 in the world, a new career high. The hole that Miami blew in her ranking was not just filled. She had climbed out past where she started, and the label died that afternoon, quietly, with no announcement. You just stopped hearing it. The pattern in Washington, now watch how fast this happens. Birmingham title, Berlin semifinal, Svitolina beaten, Wimbledon 4th round, defending champion removed, career high 28 in the world. And then Washington, where she plays the single most absurd week of her life. Round 1. Zheng Qinwen, Olympic gold medalist. Eala loses the first set 4-6. Everybody has seen this movie. Young player hangs tough, drops the opener, fades away. She wins the second set 6-4. Then she wins the third 6-1. 6 games to 1 against an Olympic champion in a deciding set. Round of 16. Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion of this tournament, a former US Open finalist, and a player who had already beaten Eala this season in Stuttgart in straight sets. First set, Eala wins 6-2. 4 unforced errors in the entire set. Second set, Fernandez wakes up. 5 games in a row, Eala is down 1-5. 1 game from a third set, she almost certainly loses. Everybody watching has already written the ending. Eala wins 6 of the last 7 games, takes the tiebreak 7-1. Fernandez finishes with 42 unforced errors and no explanation for what just happened to her. Quarterfinals, Alina Svitolina, second seed, world number 10. Different surface than Berlin. Different continent. Different conditions. 6-3, 6-4, the exact same score as June. Now stop looking at the individual results and look at the shape of them. At Wimbledon, she eliminated the defending champion. At Washington, she eliminated the defending champion. 2 tournaments in a row. 2 reigning title holders gone. The first time you call it a career day. The second time is a pattern. And patterns are not luck. Luck does not schedule itself for weeks apart on 2 different surfaces against 2 different champions. Her 2026 record is 32 wins and 18 losses. Birmingham title, Berlin semifinal, Wimbledon's second week, Washington's semifinal. And when the Svitolina match ended on Saturday night, the number arrived. Top 25. First time in her career. First time for anyone from the Philippines. Ever. The quiet decision nobody connected. Now one more thing, and this is for anybody still with me, because I have not seen a single channel connect these 2 facts. This week was supposed to have a completely different headline. 10 days before the DC Open announced that Alexandra Eala would play doubles with Venus Williams, 7-time Grand Slam singles champion, 14-time Grand Slam doubles champion. They had already teamed up at Bad Homburg in June and reached the quarterfinals together. The tournament posted it. The tennis media loved it. Eala had talked about how much she learned from Venus, about her work ethic, about how down-to-earth she was. On July 24th, they were photographed practicing together on the Washington courts. Everything was on. Then the doubles draw came out, and Eala was not in it. Venus was listed with Diana Schneider. Reporters were openly confused. The explanation floating around was that Venus had simply repaired, which explains nothing. People speculated about injury. Venus was asked in press and said they had a great time at Bad Homburg, that it did not work out this time, that she would love for there to be future times. The whole thing got covered as a mystery, a little drama, a story about a partnership falling apart. Then Eala explained it herself, and her answer was boring, which is probably why it got buried. She said she did not have the capacity yet, that she could only commit at the level she wanted in one discipline that week. So she chose singles. Now go back and count what happened after that decision. 3 matches. Zheng Qinwen 3 sets. Fernandez 2 sets and a comeback from 1-5. Svitolina 2 sets. An Olympic champion. A defending champion. And the world number 10. In 1 week. On a surface she had barely started playing on. A 21-year-old turned down court time with Venus Williams in front of the entire tennis world, knowing exactly how it would look. That is not a small thing to do at her age. Everyone wants to be on that court. Everyone wants that photograph. She chose the boring option. And the boring option is the reason she had legs in the third set against an Olympic gold medalist on Tuesday and still had them against a top 10 player on Saturday. The story everyone covered was the partnership that fell apart. The actual story was a kid making a professional decision that most veterans get wrong, which is how a number that has never belonged to anybody from her country finally showed up next to her name. And the strange part is that the number is already out of date. What the top 25 actually is, so that is what the top 25 actually is. It is not a reward for one good week in Washington. It is the receipt. 17 months. One ranking collapse that dropped her 16 spots for playing well. One flight to Mallorca as a child. One afternoon at Wimbledon that made the whole thing impossible to dismiss. And one quiet decision 8 days ago that nobody understood until now. And she is not finished with this tournament. Naomi Osaka is next. 4 Grand Slam titles. The two of them have never played a professional match against each other in their lives. No head-to-head. No film. Nothing. It is also the first time two of Asia's biggest stars have met at this stage on tour. On the other side of the draw, Jessica Pegula plays Diana Schneider, and the winner waits on Sunday. Then there is a date that matters more than most people realize. August 24th. That is the seeding cutoff for the US Open. If Eala holds where she is right now, she will be seeded at a Grand Slam for the first time in her life, which means no top 10 player in the opening round in New York, which means the entire tournament opens up in front of her. And step back one more level because this is bigger than a bracket. There is a version of this story that is pure celebration, and I do not think that version is honest. Eala said something recently that stayed with me. She talked about how going home has changed, how the crowds now mean security, how she described it as uncharted waters. That is the part nobody puts on the graphic. Being the first person from your country to do something means there is no one who has done it before you, which means there is also no one who can tell you how to carry it. She is 21. She is carrying 100 million people. And she is figuring out the weight of it in public, in real time, with no instruction manual. That is what the number cost. Which leaves the question I keep coming back to. She went from 140 in the world to the top 25 in 17 months. She has beaten the defending champion at 2 consecutive tournaments. She just took down the world number 10 for the second time this year. And she is 21 years old. So, what is the last number? Because everybody has a ceiling. Every player on tour eventually finds the level where the climb stops and the career settles into whatever it was always going to be. Nobody has found hers yet. Miami did not find it. The ranking collapse did not find it. Wimbledon did not find it. Washington has not found it. Maybe Osaka finds it on Sunday. Maybe nobody finds it this year. I am going to be here for the semifinal and for New York and for whatever the next number turns out to be. She went from 140 to 25 in 17 months, and she is 21 years old. Nobody knows what the last number is. I would like to be there when we find out.